Hello, my name's Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for July 19th to July 25th of 2015. And on July 9th, we have the sun. You can see it denoted right here by this black circle with a dot in it. It's in Cancer, and it's also in the 60-second hexagram. And on the outside of the wheel, we see the chop mark for the 60-second hexagram, numbered from bottom to top. The 60-second goes yin, yin, yang, yang, yin, yin. And then the 60-second hexagram is mapped to an opening in the energy channel called a gate. And right here is the 60-second gate of detail, preponderance of the small, caution, patience, and detail produce excellence out of limitation, located in the throat center in a collective logic energy path in the understanding circuit called the channel of acceptance, a design of an organized being that connects to its harmonic, the 17th gate of opinions following the ancient law that those who wish to rule must know how to serve. And I have found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person, that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we've got the following activated gates on July 19th. The sun is in the 62nd gate with the earth in the 61st gate. We have the north node of the moon in the 46th gate with the south node in the 25th gate. Mercury is in the 53rd gate with we've got Venus, which is slowing down because it's going to turn retrograde on the 25th, and it's in the 29th gate at the beginning of the week. Mars is also in the 53rd gate with Mercury. Jupiter is in the 29th gate along with Venus. Saturn is retrograde in the 14th gate. Uranus is at a standstill or stationed as it turns retrograde on the 26th in the 51st gate. Neptune is retrograde in the 37th gate, and Pluto is retrograde in the 38th gate. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these activations will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. The neutrino forecast is really just a weather report. No matter what the weather, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru said, whatever the weather's going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather's for your pleasure. And as we begin the week, we've got two channel definitions due to the transit field, with Venus and Jupiter in the 29th gate and the north node in the 46th gate. We've got the channel of discovery, which is the design of succeeding where others fail and failing where others succeed, which is going to be with us until August 12th, bringing us the energy to make a commitment to something that we will have to abandon ourselves to it during the next month. That's the energy of it. This channel is defined for an extended period due to Venus being at a standstill in the 29, and Jupiter also being in the 29. Basically, it's through our experiences that we realize that there really is no such thing as failure or success, only continued discovery. So this is about being in the now and the experience of being alive. The defined G center could influence folks without to obsess about where they're headed and where they might find love. This also affects non-generator types in feeling busy and having the endurance to work. Obviously, don't get used to it. They may also think that they know when enough is enough, which could lead to a premature or abrupt end to something that really needs more time. And then with the South Node in the 25 and Uranus in the 51, we have the channel of initiation, a design of needing to be first until November 29th. of 2015, where we might experience some sort of leap into the unknown. This is an individual channel that empowers through the courage to take a chance on something unknown and deal with the consequences afterwards. Obviously, following your strategy and authority will help you determine if this initiation is correct for you, or if faced with multiple possibilities to experience a quantum shift, which one, if any of them, are correct for you. In the mundane world, we're really likely to see people become more competitive, pushing the boundaries, getting outside of their comfort zone, which will be shocking to themselves and others as they feel the wonder of their own unique spirit. If you experience people acting unpredictable during this time period, just recognize this conditioning force will eventually move on, but it's going to be with us for 4.5 months. This could seem that folks are less in balance while experiencing this foreign energetic. And with the defined ego center, people without a defined heart center may feel that they have something to prove or make promises or commitments that are not correct for them. And again, the defined G center can influence folks who have an undefined G center or an open G center, where they question where are they headed, where can they find love, things of that nature. And this is individual circuitry. So this definition brings melancholy that's best used in creative activities. And because Uranus is at a standstill or stationed in terms retrograde on July 26 in the 6th line of the 51, this channel of shock initiation will be defined for the entire time the nodes are in the 2546 axis. So we're going to be looking at the sun's ravishing line values daily, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ra had said in Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when talking about these daily shifts in line values, he said, we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. Now, of course, if your strategy and authority doesn't lead you in that direction, you can always notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. July 19th. We start the week with the sun in the 6th line of the 60-second hexagram. The sun in the 60-second 6 is self-discipline, exalted. A penny saved is a penny earned. Detail as a path to material success. The understanding that material success depends on expression of detail. Detriment, the skills, but not the discipline to succeed. The gift for, but not the discipline to necessarily to do the necessary detailed work to succeed. And, as I've said in past reports, the 6th line is the roof of the hexagram, and typically when we're on the roof of a house or a building, we're not looking at the building, we're looking at what's out there, what's in the neighborhood and things like that. And that really is the energetic of that 6th line. But then later on the 19th, the sun moves out of the 62nd gate and hexagram and into the 56, and the Earth moves out of the 61 and it moves into the 60th hexagram and gate of acceptance. Limitation, the acceptance of limitation is the first step in transcendence. And this shift happens at 4:22 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So you want to convert that to your local time zone. The sun in the 56th gate of stimulation, the wanderer, stability through movement, the perpetuation of continuity through linking of short-term activity. And the sun is in the first line of the 56, which is described as quality, exalted, the practical sense that even short-term activities should be of value, expression of practical ideas that have value, detriment, the ego drive to make an impression that will misuse energy in trivial pursuits, the drive to stimulate that which will express any idea, no matter how trivial. And so we're starting a new hexagram, and when we're in the lower trigram diagram, the first, second, third lines. Those are days when people are looking more inward. They're more absorbed in their own process. And the theme of the first line, the investigative line, is that there's perhaps a fear or an anxiety that needs to be investigated. It's a day to study, not to act. It's a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a good day to deal with things you don't understand, can't make sense of, or don't know. And then also on the 19th, Mercury moves from the 53rd hexagram, leaving behind Mars, and it moves into the 62nd hexagram up here in the throat center. And also, we've got Venus moving out of the 29th gate and hexagram, and it moves into the 59, leaving Jupiter behind in the 29. So let's start with Mercury. In mythology, Mercury was the messenger of the gods. So this is about communication, expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music, according to Ra. So what do you need to communicate in life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. And so what might be communicated when Mercury is in the 62nd gate? I'd expect people to hear people say, I think, or I don't think. I think it's okay, or I don't think it's okay. This is the gate of detail. Preponderance of the small, caution, patience, and detail produce excellence out of limitation. In the first line of the 62, this is the line of routine, exalted, the ability to transcend the boredom of routine through a rich and daring fantasy life, the ability to organize detail through fantasy, detrimented rebellion and its enormous waste of energy, the need for expression which ignores detail. And then also on the 19th, Venus moves from the 29 to the 59. And in human design, Venus is very powerful and deeply misunderstood, according to Ra. It brings morality, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us. And what disturbs you on a moral level, your design and personality Venuses tell of the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life. Ra talked about that if you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in its retribution. In the 59th gate of sexuality, dispersion, the ability to break down barriers to achieve union. Venus in the first line of the 59 is the preemptive strike, exalted, the authority and vitality that in understanding purpose and direction can recognize and eliminate barriers before they become impregnable. The power of fertility to impregnate. Detrimented in this position, the ability and intelligence to recognize, but a deep indecisiveness about how and when to act, the potential of fertility limited by uncertainty. And this is the line, the first line of the 59, where Venus is going to be turning retrograde. So it's really going to sit in that first line of the 59 for quite a while as Venus is at a standstill and then turns retrograde, but slowly will appear to start moving in reverse from our perspective here on Earth. So it will spend quite a while in just sitting in that first line. So also on the 20th, the Sun then moves into the second line, so leaving the investigator line into the hermit line of the 56, which is described as linkage, exalted, isolated genius that will eventually find continuity through recognition and support, a genius for stimulating expression that will take time to mature and will have others, it will need others to recognize it. Detriment, a superficiality which collapses under recognition and is eventually forced to move on. A gift for communicating, but not enough depth. And second line days, the hermit, but also the natural. People are waiting for something, waiting to be called. Particularly, they get called because of their natural talents. People can really be stuck in their own trip when we're in the lower trigram. So it's not a great day to have a big social event because people are more wanting to stay at home in their hermitages under the second line influence. On the 21st, the sun then moves into the third line. So leaves the hermit line, moves into the martyr line, again of the 56th. This is the line of alienation, determined self-sufficiency, exalted will and egotism that often proves overbearing and guarantees continued isolation. Here, this is acceptable given the sun's intrinsic vitality, the drive to control and be the focus of expression. And the sun is exalted in the 56.3, so there is no detrimented description associated with this day. Third line days, this is the line of the martyr. So we're talking about trial and error process, bonds made and broken, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. Things bump into us under that third line energy, so you want to be careful on the roads, be careful swinging doors, swinging elbows. It could be a day when you have bonds made and broken. It is a trial and error process. It's a good material day. It's a good day to do business on the material plane. But obviously, we have to be careful because that third line energy, things can go wrong. But ultimately, these things can lead to discovery. And then also on the 21st, Mercury moves out of the 62nd gate and joins the sun in the 56th. We've talked about Mercury earlier. So what might be communicated when Mercury is in the 56? Well, we might hear people say, I believe, or I don't believe. This is the gate of stimulation, the wanderer, stability through movement, the perpetuation of continuity through linking of short-term activity. And then in the first line of the 56, Mercury is in the line of quality, exalted, the practical sense that even short-term activities should be of value, expression of practical ideas to have value, practical ideas that have value. Detriment, the ego drive to make an impression that will misuse energy in trivial pursuits, the drive to stimulate that will express any idea no matter how trivial. And then on the 22nd, the sun then moves into the fourth line of the 56 hexagram. So now we're moving up into the opportunist line of the 56 at 3:05 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where the sun is detrimented by Mercury also being in the 56. And described as expediency, detrimented expedient behavior whose price is a constant stressful alertness and nervous anxiety in fear of losing what has been gained, the role as reality, the fear of silence and of being uncovered. And, fourth line days, we've moved out of the lower trigram into the upper trigram. So it's a change from an inward perspective to looking outward with the themes of friendship, companionship, networking. Fourth line days are great for social interaction. People are more open to networking, to being friendly and social. And on the 23rd, the sun then moves into the fifth line, the heretical line of the 56. Up here, and this shift happens at 2:38 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 56.5 is described as attracting attention, exalted unusualness, innovation, and sometimes genius that guarantees the eventual attracting attention and support. Stimulation at its most innovative and unusual, detrimented all too often the tendency to attract attention that is self-defeating in its effects. The power of stimulation to provoke and disrupt. And so the fifth line is the line of the heretic. To me, the most important thing to understand about the heretic and the heretical lines of any gate is that it's about projection. The projection is positive followed by negative. Positive, they could do it, they'd be great at it. This is the perfect person for whatever it is. Then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it, doesn't want to do it, for whatever reason that expectation is not met, that's when the projection turns negative, and that's when there's the heretic is punished, tied to the stake, if you will. So this really influences us in that it's a day of suspicion, but it's also a day of universalization where something can leak out and spread like a virus, whether it's a YouTube video or a Facebook post. And people talk about paranoia associated with the fifth line. As a fifth line, I like to say it's only paranoia if they're not out to get you, and often given the projection field, they often are. This obviously impacts the nature of relationships, and seduction is also a theme of a fifth line day. On the 24th, the sun then moves into the sixth line. So up here on the roof of the hexagram for the 56th, and this happens at 2:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun is exalted in the 56.6 as caution, exalted the prudence when linkage has been achieved to honor its new commitments in order to secure its footing, honesty in expression, living by one's word. And again, 6 lines, roof of the hexagram. As I said earlier, when we're on the roof, we're looking beyond what's in the neighborhood, what's down the road, rather than what's happening right here. Ra talked about 6 line days, not to get stuck with your head in the clouds because you'll end up with something banging into your kneecaps or your shins. It's a day where there's a lack of focus on what's going on around you because folks are looking beyond their immediate environment. And like 3rd line days, there's certain dangers of maybe not seeing a car coming and not seeing a bill coming. And then also on the 24th, we've got Mercury leaving the 56. Where the sun is, so we better put 56 back, at least for a day or so. But Mercury leaves the 56, and it moves into the 31. Here, even better. That's where the 56 is hiding. Okay, where it ended up. So anyway, the 31. Like I said, Mercury is leaving the 56 where the sun is. It's moved into the 31st hexagram. We've already talked about the qualities of Mercury. So what might be communicated when Mercury is in the 31? Because we're dealing with the gates of the throat center, and each throat center gate has a voice, and the voice of the 31 is I lead, or could be I don't lead. This is the gate of leading. The law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference and thus influence, and is in the hexagram of influence. And in the first line of the 31, this is manifestation. Influence cannot exist in a vacuum. Exalted, the sun does not and cannot hold back its light, and thus its influence on every life. The natural expression of leadership, detriment of the absorption of light that in darkness can only promise manifestation, the unnatural expression of leadership. And then on the 25th, we've got the sun leaving the 56, right on the heels of Mercury, and thus joining Mercury in the 31. And with this, we've got the Earth leaving the 60 and moving into the 41. down here in the root center. And so, the 41st hexagram, this is the gate of contraction, decrease, the limitation of resources, which maximizes the development of potential. This shift happens at 1:46 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and the sun in the 31st gate of leading influence, the law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference and thus influence. The sun is exalted in the first line of the 31 and described as manifestation. Influence cannot exist in a vacuum. Exalted, the sun cannot hold back its influence, cannot hold back its light, and thus its influence on every life. The natural expression of leadership. And again, so we're starting a new hexagram. So we're in the lower trigram, first, second, third lines, as we had talked about earlier, being much more of an inward process. And then also on the 25th, Mars moves from the 53 and into the 62. And so we've got Mars in the gate of detail, preponderance of the small, caution, patience, and detail produce excellence out of limitation. Mars is detrimented in the first line of the 62, which is routine, detrimented, rebellion, and its enormous waste of energy, the need for expression, which ignores the details. And Ross spoke about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy resource that lacks refinement and is subject to outbursts. And Mars in mythology is the warrior archetype. By following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine the energy of our design and personality. Mars is from immaturity to wisdom. So no matter what energies are conditioning you during the week, just remember this experience is about being a passenger that's riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery, let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day is a blessing, no matter what dramas beckon to distract us. I believe we're all here giving the performance of a lifetime on this world stage. I think it's also important, though, to observe your play, observe your movie, as well as act your part by remembering you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be for July 26, 2015. Should be available on the 25th, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. And you can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube, as there are New World Birth presences in all those places. And I want to encourage you to share this information, whether it's as videos or as text, as widely as you choose. And I also invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you've got any questions or wish to schedule a reading. If you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. As I've said before, you can either email me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com to make a donation, or to get a reading, which is a great way of supporting us here. And the readings I give tend to be quite lengthy, in being usually at least 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours. What can I say? I'm a projector. I don't know when enough is enough. And the way I do readings at the upper two levels of the paid readings that I offer is I like to think of it as if I was a playwright or writing a script. And I use the human design portion of the reading, because you're really getting a couple of readings in one. I describe the character. Who is the person in the play or movie? And then I use astrology transits to look at what are the upcoming scenes in the play or movie. What is that character going to be dealing with? And then ultimately, the character's lines in their play or movie are their strategy and authority. And I find this gives a really nice, holistic view of who is the person and what's going on in their life. And, as always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. All right, well, I'm looking forward to connecting with you again next week. All my best to everybody.